Welcome to your passion, purpose, and personal brand. I'm your host, Lisa McGuire, and today we're going to dive into a topic that I know will resonate with so many of you, especially if you've ever felt like you're doing all the right things, but somehow your business growth still feels stuck. We've been told for years that success comes from following the formula, create a free checklist, run a funnel, automate your email sequence, and the clients are going to come out of the woodwork. But the truth is that approach no longer works the way it used to. The world has changed, audience has evolved, and what people crave now isn't more information, it's individualization. And so I'm excited to have today, my guest is Maeve Ferguson. She is a master at helping entrepreneurs and thought leaders make that shift. She's a business mentor, a speaker, a strategist who helps experts turn their intellectual property into high-converting diagnostic assessments that personalize the pathway for every potential client. Her work with industry leaders such as Jen Kim and Mike Kim, not related, proves that the future of marketing isn't about collecting leads, it's about creating connection through precision and personalization. What I love most about Maeve's work is that it aligns perfectly with my mission of helping people move from performance into presence. Because when we stop trying to fit into formulas and start aligning our business around who we really are, we not only grow faster, we grow freer. So today we're going to explore how so many high achievers get stuck in outdated funnels, why that happened, and how Maeve's approach can help you find the clarity and flow you've been missing. So Maeve, thanks for bearing with me in that introduction. I'm very excited to set that up, and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Lisa. I am really, really excited to dive into this conversation and really go deep on this topic.
Yes, there's a lot we can go into because it wasn't that long ago. Just get people, give them a checklist, and people will flock to you. But so many of my listeners are still stuck in that. Why do you think so many entrepreneurs and experts hit that invisible ceiling where their growth just stops?
Yeah, so I love that. And I think it primarily comes down to the, pop up a funnel and you're going to be a millionaire by Friday. Marketing BS, for want of a better word, that was put out there, many years ago. And yes, back in 2017, essentially, if you were able to build a funnel and run Facebook ads, it kind of was like a license to print money. But the world has moved on, and our audiences have become more and more sophisticated over time. But what is happening is a lot of the, what I call the bro marketers, are still peddling the things that used to work all of those years ago. And essentially what's happening is to the early stage buyer, they are still falling for this. They are believing in the hope and the dreams and the nonsense that they have been sold, that, as you say, all they have to do is whack up a checklist and set up an audit email sequence. Nobody ever talks about traffic and where are these eyeballs going to come from that are actually going to go through your checklist. And I think that's kind of one part of it, is that the level of sophistication of our audiences has increased dramatically. And I also think that people's radar for nonsense and rubbish has increased over time as well, especially with AI now. Every single one of us can tell an AI written post or an AI written email at 1,000 paces, and it just contributes to the noise. So the more and more that we see this AI generated like brain rot, what is happening is that people are just becoming more and more discerning. And as you mentioned there in your intro, this level of individualization, this level of personalization is starting to matter more and more. And if anybody has scaled their business before, we're going to be feeling this like, yeah, but how do we scale this? That is essentially the topic of today's conversation, is how do we do this individualization? How do we do this personalization, but also not have to work, 400 hours a day? Because, we all have lives. I have two very young children. We got to get that balance. And that is essentially what we're going to be diving deep into today.
Well, that sounds refreshing. Like I can breathe already, just the hope of that. But why do you think it is that people don't want more free stuff and really want something tailored to them?
Yeah, so tailored to them. This is the level of specificity. Whenever somebody goes through your, like, say for example, if you have a PDF lead magnet, and it is what I call spray and pray marketing, and it is the
Mhm.
same message for every single person. And like, I'll tell a little story here actually, just to demonstrate my point. I am on an email list of a very, very, very well-known guy in the business coaching, business marketing space. Super, super incredible. I've purchased loads of his workshops in the past, and I think he is absolutely incredible. But a couple of weeks ago, he sent me and the rest of his list an email, and it really got me thinking that he was losing so much from his list. And essentially what happened was he sent me an email saying, if you want to get to your first 10K months, sign up for this workshop. And it really struck me that not only was this speaking to the Maeve from like 6 years ago, so back then, yes, I probably would have signed up for that thing. He had so little level of data on me. He had so little information about me. He had no idea that I'm not even a coach.
Mhm.
That the stage of my business is like so far beyond what that call to action was, that it made me think, right, there's bound to be thousands of other people on his list that he has just missed. We would be way, way better for his 50K offer that I know exists. But because he doesn't have that level of segmentation, he is just spraying the same email to everybody on his list, hoping to goodness that something sticks. And when you're on the receiving end of that, to answer your question, when you get a message that is not the right message for you, and you're not getting that message at the right time, and the message doesn't lead to the right offer for you, it actually kind of it does like a complete reverse of what that
Mhm.
person intended it to do. It actually turns you off them, because it's
Mhm.
like, you don't know a single thing about me. And so I'm not going to read the next one. I'm not going to open the next thing. I'm not going to truly um, dive into any assets that he sends. Whereas if that message had been personalized to where I am in my journey, and
Mhm.
some of the air quote struggles that we are going through right now are more in the realm of not being able to hire fast enough to keep up with client demand, and onboarding new staff and making sure that they're up to speed with the white glove delivery that our clients expect and things like that. Not sending me some sort of thing about, do you want to make your first 10K month? It was completely unaligned. So again, when we think about a lead going through our stuff, are we putting the right message and the right offer in front of the right person at the right time? It is so, so critical nowadays.
I love what you said about that. And that recently happened to me is
Mhm.
I purchased an offer, right? And then 3 days later, I get an email to the full list asking me if I want to buy the offer. And I've
Yeah.
just purchased it.
It's just simple
Yeah.
tagging. Yeah.
Okay. I don't want another one. I like the one I have, right? Please don't
Yeah.
send me any more. And so it's almost like you become this cast of thousands, right? It's kind of like when you go on a cruise ship and they go into port and all of the cattle leave the cruise ship and all of the cattle come back on. Like, we don't want to be one of the cattle. I know you live on a farm, Maeve, but we don't want to be one of the cattle. We want to be the one person. Yeah. And it just, like you said, it does more harm
Yeah.
than what good it is.
Yeah, exactly. And it's that level of personalization, and how do we actually, because we may have listeners now saying cool, but like, how do I figure out who on earth on my list is here, who is there, who wants this, who wants that? That's essentially what this diagnostic assessment allows us to do. And essentially, when people then are coming into your list, you're sending a completely different message to different people depending on a range of predetermined factors. So it just feels like a personalized experience because it is built to be a personalized experience.
Yeah. So, because so many people are familiar with the checklist or the 100 some PDFs we had that we just had to have, and we never looked at them again. All right. So, for our audience, could you describe what a diagnostic is as we
Mhm.
talk about this? Because that's,
Yeah.
I think, some basic information we
Yeah.
need to have.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's essentially three different types. And the main one that most people know is what's called a quiz funnel. And
Mhm.
that's where you have a fun quiz. Don't build like a Cosmo type quiz, but like a fun quiz
Mhm.
that's like between, 7 to 10 questions. It's quick, it's fast, it's easy. It puts you into different categories. And the whole idea there, it is a lead generator, getting leads onto your list, qualifying them, putting them in buckets, and giving them some value in relation to here's the label that you've been given, or here's the type that you are, or here's your main struggle. Okay, so that is one version. And none of these are better than the other. There are just
Mhm.
different use cases. So we have one client, for example, with a quiz funnel, and they're spending like up to $1 million a month in Facebook ads. So that they are getting thousands upon thousands of leads coming through their quizzes. That's a great use case for a company like that. On the very, very opposite end of the spectrum, we have what we call thought leadership diagnostics. So these are, if you've ever been through Myers-Briggs, I'm an INTJ, or
Mhm.
Enneagram, I'm a 3 with a 4 wing, or Strength Finders, or DISC, or any of those true diagnostics that are backed up with data, backed up with science. I'm jumping on today with a client who's a professor at Harvard. Has written New York Times best-selling books. That is those type of diagnostics. And
Mhm.
again, it's not better or worse than a quiz funnel. It's just a completely different use case. And a lot of prescriptive nonfiction authors that have what we call this true IP, this true intellectual property that is backed up with science and data, that's a really, really good option for them. And then in the middle of those two things is what we call a score-based diagnostic.
Mhm.
And this is, again, it's not the poor cousin of anything else. This is a really, really profound diagnostic for a lot of people in the expert space, okay? Or where you maybe help people with 3 or 4 different areas of your business. You are then asking them a series of questions that lets them know how they are getting on in that specific area. And the whole idea is to do a gap analysis. So
Mhm.
this is the type of diagnostic that we actually use for the most part inside of our business, where we score our leads on 9 different areas. And then we are able to, whenever we're having sales conversations, we're able to tailor the offer based on their areas of struggle that we've pre-identified. And the beauty of that is that it negates the need for these horrendous, what people call discovery calls, where we get 60 minutes of your life and you're like, tell me your life story. And then, would you want to buy my thing? No, I don't. And this is what's happening to so many experts with these discovery calls. The beauty of the diagnostic is it collapses all of that down. We have the data. We know exactly where they are prior to the conversation. We know exactly how much they're able to invest. So before jumping on a call, we already know if somebody's able to spend more than 50K, or between 20 and 50, or 10 and
Mhm.
20, or what kind of level they fall into. And then our sales team are actually able to make the right offer to the right person at the right time because, hey, presto, we have that information about them. So that's kind of the third type, is this score-based diagnostic. And that is especially useful if you have pillars in your framework, or
Mhm.
you have a methodology, or you help people in a few key areas across your area of expertise.
The diversity of those three, I can see the need in each of those. The first one, kind of almost like, what kind of Disney princess are you? That type, right? But a little
Well,
bit
those
more.
are those are the ones that we're like, you will not sign as a client with us if you want to build a Disney princess quiz. I am not your girl.
You're not the person. No, you definitely much more strategy, structure, all of that. I don't want to imply that at all. And then I can see the thought leader one with the diagnostic, the based on
Yeah.
science. But
Hmm.
what I love about the last one that you talked about, Maeve, was, when you talked about people don't have to get on discovery calls, my body shifted. I relaxed when I heard that, because I want people to think about this. Think about the amount of time that you invest every week or every month or throughout a year. How much time do you spend on a discovery call, only to get to the end and realize this person is not qualified for what I
Yeah.
want to sell? if you took the value of that time and packaged that up and invested it into a diagnostic such as this, then you know, even before you even know if you want to get on a call with that person, you know where they're qualified. Like, I can see such value in being able to do this. Amazing. Yeah.
And I think it works both ways. So like one of the curious things is a lot of people struggle with qualified leads. So they're getting
Mhm.
people onto calls and then at the very end of the call they're like, yeah, I live in my car. And you're like, oh man, like how am I going to sell them my $20,000 thing, for
Right.
example? Okay. So that is one end of it. But one of the really intriguing things that we have also discovered, because we have multiple six-figure offers
Mhm.
right down to a 2K self-study product.
Mhm.
Okay. So that's quite a range. And it actually works on the flip side as well. If you're hopping on a call with somebody who was going to invest $185,000 and you're saying, here's my 2K course, they're never buying that thing because it's not the level of transformation that they want.
Mhm.
They want the private, the bespoke, the in-person, all of those
Mhm.
high touch points. So a lot of people think about qualified leads from how do we get the people who can spend more, but just the same, we don't want to be getting people who are willing and able to spend $250,000 and then trying to square peg round hole them into, or do you want to buy my digital course for 2K? No, I don't. You know.
Right. And that communicates a lot about the level of quality that you have. And yeah, you could really send them away. So May, for somebody who's listening who maybe feels caught between that old playbook
Yeah.
and this new paradigm, right? Okay, I know this isn't working. I know that I might need to start looking at that. How do they recognize that it's time to make that shift? And I think the answer would, be obvious. Well, the time is now. But how do we know when it's the time and the steps to take to start going that direction?
Yeah, absolutely. So I used to be an accountant in corporate in a past life, in a very different version of Maeve. So I will always revert here to the numbers because
Mhm.
our data never lies. Our numbers
Mhm.
never lie. Our KPIs, our metrics, what I call our metrics that matter, they tell a story. And if the story that you wish to be true is not actually what is actually happening,
Mhm.
that means making a significant shift or a significant change was yesterday, not a tomorrow thing, not an after
Mhm.
Christmas thing. If this is aired before Christmas, it's like, oh yeah, next year I'll do that. So it is really, really important to look at the numbers because your numbers will tell you exactly what is going on. And if you have a
Mhm.
traditional funnel, and maybe, for example, a masterclass funnel or sales conversations, when you actually break down your metrics step by step by step by step, it'll show you where people are falling off.
Mhm.
And so that's kind of that'll tell you that it is, for the most part, this is a right now thing. Then in terms of the steps to take, I love quick wins. Okay.
Mhm.
And the reason for that is that building a really, really good diagnostic, it takes a few weeks. Okay. This is not
Mhm.
something that you're going to whack it up by Friday and turn Facebook ads on and you'll be a gajillionaire by the following Friday. Okay. It doesn't work like that. It takes between 5 and 6 weeks to build this property, to go live, to test it. And then you've got traffic conversations and conversion conversations and all of those different pieces of building and growing and scaling a company properly. Okay. So in the meantime, the number one step that I would do is to do a rich niche positioning filter on
Mhm.
everything that you're putting out there. Because when cash flow is flowing and when sales are coming into the business, it is very easy to feel energized, to feel excited, to keep that momentum going. Instead of building something from a place of fear, lack, scarcity, this
Mhm.
is broken, so let's try this thing over here. Get into that energy where this is abundant. This is where this is exciting. This is like something we want to dive into and we want to do it properly. Okay.
Mhm.
So what I mean by that rich niche position filter is this is where I see like 95% of experts who are sitting below that 750K mark. This is what's wrong. And they are speaking to either in the abstract, where they are using language that not a single person in their audience is getting up in the morning and using those types of words. Okay, so that's one thing. So get rid of the abstracts and the hypotheticals and the, these lofty, people talking about, find your authentic self. Like, what does that even mean to a real, like, nobody is getting up on a Monday morning saying, if only I knew my authentic self, then I would be X. Okay, so it's really using that real language. And then secondly, who in our market are we speaking to? Because in every single one of our markets, we have, for example, the clients who are spending multiple six figures with us. In every single market, we have people who might live in their car, okay? And they should not be investing in this type of stuff if they're struggling to feed their kids. And what's happening most people is that they're bringing all of those people onto their email lists. And they are sending the same, if you're sending the same email to everybody on your list every week, you'll know you're guilty of this, because we've no idea from all of those people. Let's say we bring on 1,000 people a month onto our list. We've no idea who are the multiple six-figure buyers and who are the people who don't have $500 to spend on our stuff. Okay. So the whole idea here is to really, really give ourselves the best chance, especially if you have higher ticket offers, like, kind of the 10K, the 15K stuff. You got to speak to elevated problems, to elevated desires. And what I mean by this is, and I fell into this trap a number of years ago myself, where in my content, I was speaking to, are you struggling to find leads? Or it's really hard to, get qualified leads into your business. That is going to bring people who are struggling to find leads, okay? Which is perfect if you have an entry-level program where you're helping them with entry-level things. And that was grand for, I used to have a group coaching program for years and years that served that what I call a newbie audience, and that's fine. But the mismatch comes if we are trying to attract people who are, spending 20, 25K, whatever that number is, to work with you, and we're speaking to problems that they had years ago, or they're speaking to problems that are the struggle bus problems. So let's pretend I was a relationship coach and I'm like, oh, you're heartbroken and you've been left devastated and you've been rejected and left all alone. Well, can you see how that is going to bring all of the poor me, struggle bus, my life's a misery, the world hates me, like, oh my goodness, get me away from that energy type people. Okay, versus, using the language of, you've done all of the retreats, you've traveled to Bali, you have hired the therapists and the transformational coaches already, but something isn't working to get you outcome X. Can you see how that's a completely different human? Because if somebody has already done all the retreats and has been to Bali, they're already at a certain, what we call a wealth marker. They're already at that level. And then we're speaking to high-end problems that they have. You're super successful in every other area of life. You're running your own company. You're heading up a board, but yet this one area of love still eludes you. Okay? So can we see how that's completely different language for, you've been rejected versus you're super successful, and that is going to bring in a completely different person into your offer. So for that kind of that quick fix, do that rich niche positioning filter. Every single word we write, ask ourselves, what level of the market is this speaking to? Who is this going to bring forward to me? What vibe or type of person is this going to bring forward to me? Is this, if I love working with elevated Harvard professors and I'm over here talking about, get more leads into your business, it's not going to land.
I love so much about this because I do some work with people trying to figure out what type of clients they are attracting based on how they show up. And if we look at these words you're using, and as I listen to you, Maeve, I could feel into that person who is trying to find that $500 or $1,000 to work with you versus the person who last year went to Bali and did this work with this coach. Two totally different things. And this speaks to what we referenced just a few moments ago of getting that email to that former version of you. It turns you off.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's the beautiful thing is when you do this rich niche positioning and then you layer that with your diagnostic, it is literally fire. And you can actually see in the data, and this, like, I'm big into analyzing all of the data as we put thousands and thousands of leads through these diagnostics, we can start to see what pieces of copy have brought through which leads, and that these are the people who are willing to spend over 50K or over 100K, and which versions of copy and Facebook audiences and all of those things, really dissecting that down to say this copy is bringing through the people who are tagging themselves as, willing to spend between $2,000 and $10,000 versus the other people at the other end. And we build a lot of agentic AI solutions that analyze all of this data automatically and then give feedback to say, here's how you need to switch and tailor your Facebook ad copy. Here's what you need to change. Here's how you need to up level who you're speaking to so that we can attract more of these high-end buyers coming through your diagnostics.
Yeah, I just think about the level of detail that you're looking at, and so many people who, I have this idea, I need to email my list, I'm going to throw this into my AI solution. It spits out an email, you send it, which really leads me to ask now that you've talked about clients experience this clarity, like I'm listening to this right now, and I know, if I were listening, well, I am listening to this, hearing, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. But you talk about like experiencing clarity before they even build the funnel. Could you talk about what happens when people start mapping their IP or intellectual property into a diagnostic form? What shifts for them? What do you see?
I think it is this piece amazes me because, I work with quite a lot of prescriptive nonfiction authors, and these are best-selling authors across the globe, like sold multiple thousands and thousands, if not millions of copies of their books. And sometimes it amazes me that they haven't thought about their body of work in this way yet. And their books have maybe even published a few years ago, and some people are in the process of writing their book. And the whole idea is that we're able to turn a reader into a lead on their list, okay? And when we take them through this process, whether you're an author or whether you're an expert, you don't need to be an author, but when we go through this process and truly say, what is it you do with people, okay? And some people have like, yep, here's my framework. And then that gives us a jumping off point to say, okay, here's what we're going to diagnose so that when they go through your diagnostic, they're going to see where their gaps are. And hey presto, because your offer is built from your framework, the offer is then going to be positioned as the exact solution to that offer. Some people don't have that framework yet. And it's this dawning realization that it's like, oh, I don't have intellectual property. And I'm like, let me pour a cup of coffee. I bet you that you do. And we bring them through it, this conversation. We call it IP extraction. And we have a conversation where they suddenly realize that they do have intellectual property. They have a process, a framework, a methodology that they bring people through that allows them, they have this shift then, as you talked about, where they're like, oh my goodness, that's how I get these magical results that my clients keep telling me about. But because they haven't codified it, because they haven't thought of it from a structural or infrastructure point of view, that they just like, this is just what I do, this is just my process. But when we actually codify that and strip it out into what we call categories and then subcategories and then questions, they start to see the picture of like, I actually have a provable, repeatable framework that every single person I put through this, they get outcome X. And it's a really validating experience for them to realize that, oh my goodness, I do have intellectual property,
Yeah. And I think that term intellectual property can be intimidating to some business owners. They think it's, some big thought leader that speaks from the stage and it's something that no one has come up with before. But your way of doing it, your process of doing it can be very enlightening for people to see. And that's another example of we work in our business and we just think this is how it is. And someone coming in from the outside is looking at it, oh, this is amazing, or to
Exactly.
help you find gaps or holes in it. Lots of value with that. So, Maeve, what I think is interesting is these diagnostics don't just serve the audience, they really do help the business owner. Can you
Mhm.
maybe think or give us an example of how a business owner might be able to make better decisions on what they're doing based on the data you're able to curate?
Yeah, so this is a fabulous question because data, in my opinion, equals power. And when we have data at our fingertips, which is our market literally telling us, here's exactly where I am, it's really, really obvious when people have been trying to what I call square peg round hole their business. And this is where you're like, my program is amazing, the transformation I provide is incredible. Why don't people get it? Why can't they see? Why do I feel like the best kept secret in the world? Often it is because we're square peg round hole in it. And what I mean by that is that if our person is struggling with A and we're over here trying to fix B, no matter how captivating you are, no matter how magnetic you are, you cannot make somebody buy something that they don't want to have. You cannot convince anybody that they need your thing if that's not what they're struggling with, or if that's not actually what they want. And the beauty, and this is kind of like the 101 level stuff that gets a lot more sophisticated than this, but the 101 level stuff is that we put people through our diagnostic. So we put 100 people through, 1,000 people through, 10,000 people through, and patterns start to emerge where we can start to see, oh, I've been over here trying to solve this thing, and everybody is actually over here. So is it any
Mhm.
wonder how I'm not getting the conversion rates that I want? Okay, so that's one thing that happens, and there we can. There's a couple of solutions that we can jump to from there. Either we can create offers that then meet the market where they are, or what we can actually do is the everything is about water that is running through the pipes.
Mhm.
So whenever we're running water through the pipes, i.e. leads going through our diagnostic, and then they are a certain type of person, but we are trying to say they're person A, we are trying to serve person B. We have
Mhm.
two options. We either create the new offer like I talked about that serves A, or we do that rich niche position and filter. Why is the water that is running through my pipes, why are they A people? I'm serving B people. And then this is where you'll see a
Mhm.
messaging positioning mismatch. If you're running paid traffic, you're going to see where your audiences are way off. And this data starts to show you in a very, very like sometimes brutal way. It starts to show you here is who you're speaking to, here's who you're attracting, and you are ending up with a pipeline full of A people when you're trying to serve at B.
Yeah, really, that's really key. And I'm thinking about this level of transparency that we get. You know, as someone is listening to this thinking, who is this something for me? So maybe share a little bit with us. How would we know if we are a viable candidate or viable client to work with you, Maeve?
Yes, absolutely. So this is essentially for those who have proven conversion. All right. So
Mhm.
it's not a Hail Mary if you've never sold a single thing ever and you're like, I'm going to whack up a diagnostic and it is going to solve all my problems. It's way, way too early. Okay. So we talk about the foundations in business of leads, offer, sales. So
Mhm.
are you able to attract leads? Okay. So it doesn't matter how stunning the diagnostic that we build for you is. If we don't have water to run through those pipes, it's just a very fancy thing sitting on the internet. Okay. So leads, offers, and sales. So from a leads perspective, what are your traffic sources? You've got organic. If you've got 6 followers on Instagram and you post once a month, and that is your only source of traffic, you ain't going to get enough leads going through those pipes to convert anything. Okay. On the other hand, if you've got a very, very active audience of LinkedIn of 10,000 plus and leads coming into your business every day, then organic, albeit it'll be quite slow, you'll still get qualified leads coming through. Okay, so we've got organic. Scalable organic is actually my favorite. And this is what I am doing right now. So where instead of posting on the socials and hoping that, you're stopping somebody's scroll as they go through Instagram or whatever, I'm leveraging my time where I use an hour of my time to have a beautiful conversation with an amazing host who then puts me in front of all of her listeners. Okay.
Mhm.
So like I would interview a few times a week, and that's called scalable organic. So that is how I get myself in front of hundreds of thousands of people instead of hoping that one of them might find my LinkedIn profile, for example. Okay. Then we have, and guest masterclasses is another huge part of that, where we are actually, I do a lot of masterclasses for other people's audiences, and then they come to work with us. Okay. Then we have obviously paid traffic. And even if your budget is only like, $50 a day, or maybe even only $20 a day, that is still going to bring lead flow into your business that is going to give you data, that is going to give you insights so that you can see what you're posting on your organic socials isn't converting in the way that you want. Okay, so it just speeds up the process. And organic isn't free. We just pay with our time instead. Okay, so I like to do a blend of all three. Scalable organic is my favorite. Then, so that's the leads piece. Then we've got our offers. Okay, we gotta have an offer that people want to buy. And how we know that is have people paid you. Okay, six figures is kind of the benchmark. There's a lot goes on in that 0 to 6 figure space. And now if you're just like leaving corporate and you're super high end and you haven't built anything, then that might be an exception. But if you're in that, like, I'm earning $1,500 a month, and that is unpredictable, there's a lot of work to do to get from that level to 6 figures. Okay, a lot of mindset work, a lot of positioning, messaging, all of those things. You're not ready for a diagnostic. Now, you might be ready to work with us from a messaging and positioning point of view, but the diagnostic is for those who have that proven offer. They know the struggles of their audience. Even if your framework or your methodology hasn't been labeled yet, put into this fancy terminology, that's okay. But you have to be able to get people results. That's the big thing. Okay, so are you good at what you do? If you're like, absolutely, I am brilliant at what I do, I just feel like the world's best kept secret, then that would be a really, really good fit as well.
Yeah. And again, this just exemplifies why this is not just let's throw up a quiz and see who comes in. There's a lot that goes into it, a lot to think about. And I think the key point is, a quiz sounds great. Oh, people love to take quizzes. They're not downloading checklists. They love to take quizzes. But are you ready for that point? And I think you illustrated that really beautifully, Maeve. So thank you for that. Yeah.
All right.
There is a deeper level here. When we jumped on the call before we pushed record, very rarely do you come into my world where I don't start talking about the energy of something, right? Like the vibe or the resonance or whatever. And there is an energetic piece to this as well. What shifts when a business owner stops chasing and starts aligning their systems around truth and resonance and service? What have you seen happen?
I love this. So for me, it's like a sense of realness. And my mentor, Ryan Levesque, he talks about this all the time. It's the return to real. And what I have found since I have shifted to that, I only work with people at this level. I only work with people who are brilliant at what they do. The more I have owned my zone of brilliance, my expertise, the fact that I am a data geek, like I hid that stuff for years because it wasn't cool and sexy and shiny on the internet level topics. The more that I am owning that, the more powerful you feel. The more powerful you feel, the greater the better the energy and all of those types of things. And then you start to attract more of who you're being. And I think a lot of this, I'm a big believer that everything in life is choice. So we make a choice today. I talk about line in the sand moments. Let's make a choice today that I choose to operate at this next level. I choose to be that person. And yes, you got to do all the work. And, we spoke about how I've spent the last 7 days with my energetics advisor in person here in Ireland, and all of the work that we have been doing over the last 6 years to get me to this spot. but it is who you are is what you attract. And if you are finding that you're getting really horrible clients and like people who are like, counting all the commas and, all of the full stops and they're like pernickety and they're calling you in the middle of the night, that is part of like who we are being, who we are attracting versus having, these multiple six-figure clients that are just an absolute joy to work with. It is all energy.
It is. It is. And it reminds me I've done a couple of episodes. Who you are is not what you do. And that wasn't enough. So I did another episode, What You Do Is Not Who You Are. So the part about being is really critical because that is who you are attracting in. So that leads me to, as we get ready to wrap up here, Maeve, what kind of business owner do you believe this next era that we are heading into right now is calling us to become?
What kind of business leader?
What kind of business owner do you think this next era is calling us to become? Like we can't, stay in this formula piece.
I love this. So I think we are going through a great reckoning right now. And I think AI is accelerating it and exacerbating it. And I think it's actually going to be a beautiful thing because I think a lot of the mediocrity that we've all seen and experienced in this market is going to get kicked to the curb. And what we are going to see is the elite at what they do rise, the people who have that white glove experience to working with them, that they rise. And the market is going to do what every market does. It's going to spit out the people that it should never have been there in the first place. So I'm actually welcoming this shift. I'm enjoying almost this, you can see this constant narrative on social media about people who are like, oh, nobody's buying. And I'm like, we have never been busier. People are buying every single day. And there's this whole narrative of, again, struggle bus, that it's like nothing is working, everything is broken. And what that is, back to the very start of the conversation, those who are trying to work from a 2017 model and trying to make it work in 2025, basically the market is finding them out and the market is catching them out. And the more they fight to stay with how things were, instead of, again, for us, our entire business model shifted from a group coaching program and digital courses. And now all we do is private, bespoke, one-on-one, super high-end work. And people crave that. People want that. We do a lot of work in person. People fly out to Ireland to do this with us. They want that experience, not just some other digital checklist that they're never going to open and never going to do anything with.
Right. And I think that value, again, as I mentioned earlier, that comes back in droves if you invest that at the beginning. So Maeve, if somebody is interested in working with you, what is the process? What does that look like? Because again, we know that there are key people that you really do a good job for.
Absolutely.
How would they find you?
Yeah, 100%. So the best place to find me organically is on LinkedIn. So just search for Maeve Ferguson there. And if you're curious about a score-based diagnostic, you can go through ours just to see, like, I want you to go through it with your entrepreneurial cap on, as opposed to your consumer cap. Go through it. Oh, I see what's happening here. I see what she's doing. She's qualifying this. She's qualifying that. And then at the back end of that, then you can jump onto an application. And then if you're a good fit, you'll get an opportunity then to speak to our team. And if you just want to go bypass the diagnostic and just go straight to that application, you can go to maeveferguson.com/application and we'll hook up the impactscoreassessment.com as well.
All right. Well, thank you so much. You have brought incredible value, I think, for so many people who have been doing everything right and find themselves successful, but they're stuck. I think you've given us a new way of thinking. So thanks for being here today.
Thank you very much for having me. I really, really enjoyed the conversation.
All right. So I hope this conversation has sparked something inside of you. Maybe you've realized that the reason you've been feeling stuck isn't that you've lost your edge. It's because the world around you has changed. And it's asking you to evolve with it. And as Maeve has reminded us today, this isn't about scrapping everything you've built. It's about upgrading to the way that you share it. People don't want to be sold to anymore. They want to be seen. And when you create a business that meets people where they are with this precision and empathy of real personalization, you stop chasing opportunities. You start attracting alignment. So Maeve, thank you for showing us that structure and soul can coexist beautifully. And to you as a business owner, if you've been sitting here thinking in that successfully stuck space, there is a way out. You just need to have the wisdom within you and the right framework to set it free. And we've got someone to point you to right here. So until next time, I'm Lisa McGuire, reminding you that your next step toward growth isn't about doing more. It's about becoming more of who you already are. We'll see you here next week.